care can come in. There's the resources. We recognize that need already. There's a young man named Ian Boss who lost his father last winter. He walked across Canada. He's almost reached the end of it. When he came through here, I put him up for the night. We talked, and I carried his pack part way out to the trading post on his way out of town, and we talked about, excuse me, fathers who had died. And I promised him that palliative care would be something that I would not rest until it was expanded upon and implemented in this country. Thank you.
Health Advisory Committee.
The issue is, excuse me, the issue is sustainability of Medicare seniors care. Medicare is based on the 5 principles contained in the Canada Health Act. And those 5 principles are public administration, universal access, comprehensive coverage, accessibility without extra charges or discrimination, and portability across the provinces. The facts are public health care is sustainable. Health costs are being driven up by prescription drug costs, expensive medical technology. Tax cuts have impacted public services and Medicare. Canadians have a right to know how our money is being spent so that we can be assured that we're getting value for our money. We have an aging population whose health care needs, particularly short-term care, are not adequately being met. The question is, if elected, what steps would you and your party take to assure Canadians that Medicare spending will be transparent and cost-effective? Furthermore, what will you and your party do to improve senior health care in Canada, including home and community care, long-term care, acute hospital care, and the lack of sufficient geriatricians?
Thank you. I think the crucial first step towards establishing some transparency and accountability within provision of health care in this country is for a Prime Minister to sit down with the premiers, sign a health accord. If there is no health accord signed, one has to wonder how much privatization is in the back rooms waiting to be implemented. Privatization of the healthcare system is a failure. It's a failure at the provincial level. Maybe we can address that as to how the Liberals have failed us on that. Cuts to healthcare have been done over the years by red, blue, pick your color, either one of those. Healthcare provision of services, long-term care, we're within the platform stipulating that 41,000 more home care positions, 5,000 new long-term care beds, decreasing the cost of pharmaceuticals for patients, but ultimately recognizing, as the NDP has always recognized, is that healthcare is not a frivolous luxury. It is an essential, and we will never sacrifice it.
I will be glad to expand on this during the coffee and brownie time. But reiterating what the Liberal position is, and when Mr. Trudeau was here, he said that we must sit down with the provinces. There's been a lack of leadership for over a decade, and we must develop a new health accord. We need a new health accord by working collaboratively with the provinces. We're transferring the money federally. There has to be accountability in the provinces and the territories. There has to be accountability and transparency, and we need to negotiate a new long-term funding model that is reliable, that we as Canadians can count on over the next little while. It's not the wild, wild west out there, every man and woman himself. We need to invest. Immediately, we're talking about historic investments in the social areas, including long-term care facilities. We're going to invest $3 billion over the next 4 years to deliver more and better home care services for all Canadians, because many seniors would like to stay in their homes longer, and it's a much more cost-effective way than picking up hospital beds. It's about $1,000 for a hospital bed. Long-term care is probably about half of that. Home care is just $100 or so. And if we can get to it right away by making sure that the province and territories resource it properly, have enough caregivers out there, we can beat this thing together. So let's start working together. Let's get our healthcare system back where it needs to be nationally. Thank you.
And it's up to the provinces to ensure that they're meeting those criteria. If they're not, they get audited and they simply don't get their funding. That being said, I think there is merit to actually, and the way to go about it independently is to bring in the Auditor General of Canada and have the Auditor General actually have a look at health transfers to provinces and how they're functioning. And I think that also needs to be done at the provincial level. And I mean, that keeps it independent, completely independent. From our perspective, we will continue as a government to give the stable funding that the provinces have asked for at 6% per year and 3% vote efficiencies. I really think instead of just throwing more money at things all the time, I really think it's important that we actually sit down and look at efficiencies, because there's waste out there. There's no doubt about it. I'm on the Public Accounts Committee. We undertake studies on all government departments, and we have witnesses come before us, we have the Auditor General come before us, and we make recommendations for improvement. So I'd really go the approach of the Auditor General on this particular case. Thank you.
15 minutes for any questions from the floor. Each candidate will have an opportunity to answer the question, and the first question will be answered firstly by Carol. And first.
Okay, actually my question is addressed to Mr. Hayes, if I may. He said the Finnish West Home has instituted affordable housing. What do you assume that affordable housing is for seniors?
I wouldn't suggest affordable housing if you interpret it as
This is
affordable.
what they call it.
No, Understood.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not,
what do you
I'm not
think-
arguing with you.
Okay,
I'm
what
just
do you
suggesting
think
that
is
what they
affordable
have,
housing?
there's a homelessness problem, and there's a lack of places for seniors to live in Sault Ste. Marie.
Right.
When you move out of your own home, at times you need somewhere to live, and
Right.
the private sector in this case has stepped in, and in many cases, the private sector steps in. That's all I was alluding to.
Okay. So I-
That's your question. Now we'll go to Mike. We'll have the opportunity to respond next.
No.
Well, we've seen buildings and property that the city, that was, well, the hospitals got sold for $65,000. Absolutely next to nothing. What are they turning into? Expensive luxury condos. Well, the top 1% are sure being taken good care of, aren't they? What about the rest of us? 99% for the rest of us. Who's going to take responsibility for it? We can all take responsibility. October the 19th, change of direction, change of government.
The Liberals have a plan for affordable housing, and it's historic in nature. And again, it's the other parties are talking about balancing the books in the next 6 months. We're talking about top priorities, seniors. We're talking about affordable housing. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about supporting the middle class and families. And that means investing, not trying to balance the books.
So that's the most efficient way of ending homelessness, because it's far cheaper to provide housing for people than it is to pay for the emergency services that they have access for, like emergency and hospital and paramedics and police services and if you add those all up, it's cheaper to put someone in a house or in housing. Sorry, not in a house. Anyway, so that is very, very important. I hope we talk about climate change soon. Realistically, affordable housing is part of climate change. We cannot afford to rebuild every time there's extreme weather events, and there's going to be increasingly more. So we must address climate change in order to have a stable environment so that we don't have to be rebuilding our infrastructure and our houses all the time. I really hope that we have a conversation about climate change and protecting the environment. Because if you think about it, you cannot have health, you cannot have an economy without a stable, safe environment. And so we've got to turn this ship around as quickly as possible, and that's why I'm here. I mean, here at Kennedy.
The original question about affordability of alternate accommodation, we all get to this point in our life where we have to make that decision of, can I afford to stay in my house? What is my alternative? Where can I go? And yes, for a small segment of the population who have the wherewithal and the finances, a $1,200 apartment is an option. For the vast majority of seniors who are retiring into poverty, that is not an option. It is another heartache and headache of wondering, how am I going to afford a place to live? The government has an obligation to seniors to provide affordable housing, market available housing, geared to income housing. This is an essential. It is not a luxury. To suspect that most people in this country are able to take advantage of doubling their tax-free savings account. I'm a financial planner. Most people can't even max out their RSPs. I don't know what planet these people coming up with trickle-down economics are coming from. It doesn't affect 95% of the people that I'm talking to on the doors who say, what's happened to Canada in the last 10 years? That's the question, and I have the answer to that one.
As a member of a second question, and again, we'll start with Carol because all candidates have the opportunity to answer the question. So we will start the first person with Carol. Go ahead.
My question specifically is for Terry.
No, it's going to be Carol.
Oh, okay. Well, this is really related to Terry.
We'll give him time to think of a good answer.
I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room that remembers the Liberal Red Book plan in 1993 and the promises that were made. GST eliminated, the NAFTA agreement renegotiated, no changes to our social programs, and we know what happened once 1993 occurred. So I'm wondering, how can I trust the Liberal Party to be good on what you've been saying today?
Carol?
Well, I don't know if you can trust the Liberal Party. Very good question, and I'm sure you can see that there's a lot of similarities in 3, 4, maybe of the parties up here, and there's an outlier. And but in addition to there being similarities for social justice and supporting people and stuff like that, some have an extensive track record which we've known and observed over the years, and some don't have as much of a record that we've observed to see what they would do, and some have absolutely no record. That's me. Okay, so our issue is, the difference is the Liberal Party supports Bill C-51. That is extremely dangerous to our sovereignty as a nation. The NDP also supports pipelines, and that is extremely damaging to our environment. So those are serious differences between the three of us. I don't know where you stand on pipelines, Mike, but anyway, so look at it.
I think I know you already have your mind made up, but I mean, we can point to any political party, whether it's the current Harper government's promise to abolish the Senate and not appoint one senator. Well, he didn't appoint one senator, he appointed about 60. Duffy, well, name a few more, and the current situation. The NDP, social contract. Many of the teachers that are here will remember the social contract that was implemented by the NDP back in the day, which created a lot of problems for teachers and other civil servants that didn't like that as well. But now I stand before you, not talking about 1990, but talking about 2015. I've had 4 terms of experience as city councillor. I have a couple terms as a school board trustee, and I've looked at the plan. I did my research. I put my name behind them, a name you can trust here locally, because we need it. We have one of the highest unemployment rates around. Here there was a couple hundred more layoffs at Daenerys today. We're at 12.4 The Toriads have said, you just have to look at Hurricane Hazel on TV over the next little while, and she's said it. We're not afraid of you, Stephen Harper. We're not afraid of you. We are going to boost the supplement by 10%, taking 900,000, almost 1 million people out of poverty, seniors, with provinces and the territories to improve the amount of money and increase that amount. We're going to improve healthcare, long-term facilities. We're going to improve healthcare as it relates to this economy back on track. Our economy is in dire straits. It's the #1 issue that I'm hearing at the door. I can't go on a street without finding unemployed people. And with the announcements today at Tenaris, added to the recent announcement at SR, we can't we can't sing from the same playbook that the NDP and the Conservatives are both saying, a very similar platform, that they're going to balance the books at all costs during this recession. The Conservatives ran $20 billion deficits on average for 6 consecutive years, balanced the books on the backs of the veterans last year, and seniors, and a number of other people. We know the tricks. We're not falling for it. The NDP, they've already reneged on their health care commitments. It's been reported. They've reneged on their public transportation and commitments. It's been reported. You cannot do both at the same time. You have to prioritize. The #1 priority is getting this community working again for all people. We have tax cuts for the middle class. We have a scarring happening. The average 35-year-old is saving half of what our seniors saved when they were that age because they can't afford to live anymore. We're going to put more money in their pocket. We have a child benefit program that's going to put more money in an inclusive plan because we live in a caring society. We live in a place called Canada that respects the views and rights of all people. We will show leadership.
We can't trust our conscience. We trust for it. Absolutely. Vote for your conscience. On October the 19th, vote for change. Stephen Harper says he's the friend of steelworkers. He's not the friend of steelworkers in Hamilton. He's not the friend of this steelworker. He's not a friend of any other steelworker that I know of. He says he's the friend of seniors. He's going to help us stay in our homes. He's going to give us tax credits for making them handicap accessible and whatnot. He likes seniors so much, he wants to look after our health, wants us all to get our exercise starting January across the country in the middle of winter.